Alright guys, here we go with some more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We're already on, part 4? And midway through this part of the trial. So hopefully we can make it through and give Gina the verdict she deserves. So, hopefully y'all continue to enjoy watching, and let's keep it going. Alright guys, and we're back. All of a sudden, we seem to be up in our necks in a serious matter of national security. Although, I'll just talk about interception of secret government. Yep, we went through this. Explain a number of things. Okay, let's go through this again. Yep. Alright. Mere communications officer can possibly steal. Besides, the sound produced by the music box is not even Morse code. There was some low-class brickmaker negotiating with McGilda anyway, was it not? I have no relation to that man. Let me see. I feel like you have some... Oh, and let me check something. Ah, that's right, the McGilda case notes. Victim found deceased in the last scheduled omnibus the day after stabbing abdomen. Details of victim named Mason Milverton. Oh, ho, ho, yep, we have something. We have something. McGilded. Okay, we got something. We have something. Objection! Mr. Ashley Milverton. Tell me, why did you try to hide your former name from the court? Because I haven't gone by that name for years. It means nothing to me. No, I don't think that's the real explanation at all. The truth is, you had a reason to hide that name. Explain yourself, please, counsel. I have here the notes from the omnibus case, my lord. And as we all know, the victim, the man who we now understand to have been negotiating with McGilden. Yes, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. That's right, only Mason wasn't his surname at all. It was his given name. His full name was Mason Milverton. Milverton? Do you mean to say, Saints alive? Mr. Ashley Milverton, is it not the case that the brickmaker, Mr. Mason Milverton, was your father? Go! I don't... As I believe I mentioned earlier, your family history will have been thoroughly checked when you joined the civil service. And it really would take no time at all for the court to subpoena those records. The truth is, you have been illegally acquiring highly confidential government information and selling it on to McGilden in collaboration with your father. The new facts and evidence unveiled by the cross-examination of this witness all come together to reveal the truth. The truth, you say? That you collaborated with your father, Mr. Mason Milverton, in illegal dealings with Magnus McGilden. By dint of this music box, you mean, counsel? Yes, stealing information being sent in secret government communications and selling it on to McGilden. Mr. Grady concocted this elaborate scheme of using 2 music box discs to encode the information, as presumably a safety measure against the information falling into the wrong hands. And a very effective one. I shouldn't have given the scheme any credence whatsoever. But the deal with McGilden went sour, and Brickmaker met his end. Yes, but before he was arrested, McGilden managed to temporarily dispose of the stolen disc at the pawnbroker. Then, having learned of the situation, you appeared at Winterbank 2 days ago, in an attempt to recover the 2 articles McGilden had placed in pawn there. But that attempt failed. One of the discs was seized by the police and the other you never found. So that same night, you enlisted the help of the Skulkin brothers and broke into the pawnbrokery. This time, determined to recover the second disc. Are you suggesting that the second disc was inside the music box? We never knew nothing about that. On the night that Mr. Winterbank was killed. The intruder to the pawnbrokery touched one item, and one item alone, the music box. As rather ingeniously demonstrated using the 2 prints from the security camera indeed. So, the question that naturally begs answering is this. Why was only that one article disturbed? The answer is obvious, because it contained the second disc which the intruder was desperate to retrieve. Since if it were to fall into the hands of the police, it would be proof of high treason. Well, Mr. Graydon, do you deny that all this actually began on that fateful night 2 months ago? I refuse to accept any of this nonsense. Sir? There appears to be blood seeping through the sleeve of your jacket. What? 2 nights ago, we know that 3 shots were fired at the scene of the crime in Windibank's pawnbrokery. 1 took the life of the pawnbroker himself. 1 struck the pouch around Mr. Shum's waist. And the final bullet struck the calendar on the wall of the shop, having first pierced the arm of one of the intruders. Mr. Graydon, that wound on your arm that you seem to be trying to hide, it's a bullet wound, isn't it? He's got you now, Mio China. Time to call it quits and croak, I reckon. Don't acknowledge my presence there under any circumstances whatsoever. Those were my terms, remember, and I paid you handsomely to comply. Clearly I was a fool to think I could trust some common backslum thieves. Fine, I admit it. I was there in Windibanks that night. I paid the pair 10 guineas to accompany me, and as you've noticed, I sustained an injury in the course of my adventures. But that is all. I admit to nothing more. Haha, so there's more to admit then. Stealing government secrets? Negotiating with Mr. McGilded? As God is my witness, I'm sure I recall nothing of the sort. It's not gonna go down without a fight. Not until I can show hard evidence, I suppose. Nevertheless, the defense has now established a crucial fact. Which is... well, we know that 1 bullet was fired from each of the 2 firearms we have in evidence. The bullet from the Skulkin brothers' gun hit the pouch around Mr. Shum's waist. And the bullet from Mr. Windibank's gun clearly must have been the one that caught Mr. Graydon on the arm. Indeed it must. We can rule out the possibility that the man shot himself. And that leads us to only one conclusion. Mr. Windibank was shot by a 3rd gun, which can only have been fired by the 3rd intruder. Goodness! That's right, Mr. Graydon. The only person who could possibly have shot Mr. Windibank that night is you. Hold it! You little upstart. You made a grave mistake when you summoned me here. What? What's that supposed to mean? Yes, as you rightly say, I was there at the pawnbrokers. I did my best to hide the fact naturally. I had no intention of ruining the distinguished career I'd built for myself at the communication station. But did the thought never cross your mind? Did you never consider the possibility? What? What do you mean? What thought? What possibility? The possibility that if I was there at the scene, I may have witnessed a crucial moment. You see, this makes me a key witness in this case, and I have my hands firmly around the neck of your client. What? Are you suggesting? I saw it all. I saw the very moment the pickpocket girl pointed the gun at the poor defenseless pawnbroker and shot him. You what? Order! Order! Well... Mr. Graydon? Yes? I trust you are fully aware of the implications here. If It is shown that your claim is false. You will have incriminated yourself as the killer. Oh, I understand fully. Then I must ask you to give your formal testimony once more. You will explain to the court precisely what you saw at the moment the defendant allegedly shot the victim. Nothing would give me greater pleasure. Oh boy, here we go. The moment of the shooting. While these ruffians were jostling with the broker, I was still near the entrance to the shop. When Winterbank threw Nash over the counter, I felt a sharp pain in my arm. I pursued the man, but he shut himself in the storeroom. I could see him through the peephole in the door though. The accused in the black coat shot the man in the back as he was trying to flee to safety. I saw the blood spatter all over that wretched girl. Then she tossed the gun out the peephole, so I picked it up and made my escape. Good gracious, this is quite extraordinary testimony. You claim, sir, under oath to have clearly seen the defendant pulling the trigger. Order, order, order! It wasn't my intention to testify in this way. But neither is it my intention to be found guilty of a murder I didn't commit. So you see, my hand has been forced. I tell the truth now as an act of self-preservation. The truth? Until now, the prosecution was completely unaware of these details. Yes, well, sorry about that. Having shot me in the arm, the pawnbroker was then shot in the back by the accused. And as I said, she was showered in his blood. You say the blood splattered all over the accused's coat. Are you sure on that point? Oh yes, quite sure. All over the black overcoat the pickpocket girl was wearing at the time. Really? If her coat could somehow be shown to harbor vestiges of blood, that would be conclusive evidence here. Such an investigation is entirely possible, my lord. What? Only very recently, a German scientist has developed a technique to identify human blood. So here's to true science, not some amateurish detective's dubious foray into the world of chemistry. There's nothing dubious about Hurley's work. His ideas are all sound. Ideas are no use to us here. In science, as in law, theories must be proven before they stand. In Germany, the technique has already been employed in the courtroom as the basis of evidence. Scotland Yard has a small quantity of the chemical reagent used, with your lordship's permission. We could shatter all vestiges of doubt within minutes. This doesn't look good, Bruno. Why not? Well, we know, don't we, that there's blood all over the front of Jeannie's coat. If they tested with their chemicals. Oh, help, you're right. I was forgetting what happened yesterday. I was thinking about that too. I was like, she does have blood on her coat, and it turned green, I think. Or was it purple? Don't move, Jeannie. I'm going to shoot. Ah, purple, yep. But that's not Mr. Winterbank's blood. That stain is from 2 months ago. That's Mr. Mason's blood from when he was stabbed by McGilded, who was wearing the coat at the time. My lord, the defense objects to the test proposed by the prosecution. Overruled. Lord Van Zieks, make it so at once. With pleasure, my lord. And while we await the results, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination. Unless they find that blood on the overcoat, Gina will be... Counsel! Yes, my lord. Your cross-examination. Of course, my lord. If this cross-examination doesn't go well, if I don't manage to uncover some decisive evidence or a really compelling clue now, I have a very bad feeling about the outcome of this trial. Alright, let's see if we can find something. While these ruffians were jostling with the broker, I was still near the entrance to the shop. When Windibank threw Nash over the counter, I felt a sharp pain in my arm. I pursued the man, but he shut himself in the storeroom. I could see him through the peephole in the door, though. The accused in a black coat shot the man in the back as he was trying to flee to safety. I saw the blood splatter all over that wretched girl. Then she tossed the gun out of the peephole, so I picked it up and made my escape. I'm gonna press this. Hold it! Did I hear you correctly? She threw the gun out of the room? That's right. After the broker fell to the floor, she started walking over. Over where exactly? In the direction of the storeroom door, to where I was watching. Of course, I quickly retreated, and then the girl dropped the gun through the peephole onto the floor on my side of the door. But why on earth would she do such a thing? I couldn't tell you. Perhaps she was hoping to distance herself from the murder weapon? Without thinking, I went and picked it up. I suppose I was worried about just leaving it there in case any more tragedies took place. So it was you, in fact, who took the third gun from the scene of the crime? Yes, it was yours truly. I left the clear up to my lackeys and left. Clear up. We made a bit of a mess around the counter, so Mr. Whistle and Fruitier told us to tidy up. He thinks it's our bloomin' mum sometimes. Well, I was paying you enough, by God. Tell me, Mr. Graydon, when you left the pawnbrokery that night, was it by any chance with a second disc in your jacket pocket?
You little toe rag!
You're like a bull at a gate, aren't you? And there's this again. Let's go. There we go. And... Excuse me! Gentlemen. Something wrong, Sunshine? That shouldn't be my line. You do realize you were just violently shaking Mr. Skulkin. Blimey, this D's a bit of an hooligan, ain't he? You saw him. He grabbed me whistling. Why the blazes, he said. Didn't you mention the third gun when you got it down station? And why didn't you? 'Cause we didn't know nothing about it or that flaming peephole in the door. Sorry about that. I can be prone to losing my rag sometimes. Not hurt, are you? Gore blind me. See the way he's looking at me? I'm telling you, this deed gives me the willies. That was strange. The inspector doesn't normally get quite as worked up as that. He wouldn't normally grab someone. No, that wasn't like Gregsy at all. He's normally all sweetness light no matter what I say to him. Yes, well, I think you might be a special case, Iris. Well, anyway, that was definitely out of character. What's your feeling, Reno? As much as I hate to admit it, I don't see any obvious holes in his testimony at the moment. But you have to find a way to break this man. And quickly, too, because once they discovered the blood on the overcoat Gino was wearing, it's a bit strange that he's so sure of himself about seeing the blood splatter over Gino's coat. It doesn't strike me as the sort of thing you'd claim if you hadn't genuinely seen it happen. But we know that Ginny didn't shoot Mr. Windibank, so what's going on? All I know is that it's very unfair. Why should some German scientist's test be acceptable as evidence when mine and Hurley's wasn't? Detectives can use test tubes too. Never mind that, I have to find a really stark inconsistency in this testimony somewhere. And I have to find it before the prosecution discovers the bloodstain on Gina's coat. Alright, you know what? I'm just gonna press all the statements. Hold it! Mr. Windibank emerged from the storeroom, I believe. Ringo and Nash were scouring the counter when he suddenly appeared and flew at them. He already had the revolver in his hand. Fortunately, I wasn't too close. I've never been so scared in all my life. Yeah, we're just your regular mild-mannered burglars, that's all. We don't like violence. Says the pair who carry a gun. What do you mean when you say you were near the entrance to the shop? I was in the doorway, running my eyes over the shelves of forfeited items. Looking for the music box, of course. The broker went for Nash in the first place. Then Mingo joined in, making it 2 against 1, so I assumed they could handle the situation. But I was wrong. I was trying to help me little bro, but the old geezer chucked me over the bloomin' counter. So I pulled me gun on the old fella, and that soon made him scarper. The pair of you setting upon the poor defenseless pawnbroker together, shame on you. Sorry, Gov. When Windenbank threw Nash over the counter, I felt a sharp pain in my arm. That makes no sense to me.
Hold it!
You mean that's the moment you were shot? Yes, though I didn't immediately realize what had happened, of course. Things crashed to the floor from the counter as the 3 men were brawling. It was at exactly that moment that it happened, so I didn't hear the gunshot. And the bullet went on to strike the calendar in the wall behind me. So it would appear. When I looked at my arm, I saw it was bleeding badly, so I wrapped my handkerchief around it. Seeing as I couldn't explain what had happened to a doctor, I had no choice but to wait for it to heal. I didn't imagine it would still be bleeding 2 days later. Did Mr. Windenbank intend to shoot you, do you think? Well, now, I don't imagine he even knows I was there, to be honest. Perhaps the gun went off accidentally. Anyway, it didn't quite strike home. When I pulled my gun on him, he tried to shove me out of the way. And then he scarpered through that door out back. At which point, what did you do? I pursued the man, but he shut himself in the storeroom. I could see him through the peephole in the door, though.
Hold it!
You mean you chased after him? I don't recall the reason why, but I ran after him to the back of the shop. And what about this peephole in the door you mentioned? Well, unsurprisingly, the storeroom's door is a solid job, made out of stout wood. But there's a small opening in it about head height that lets you see what's in there from the outside. Actually, I should know that, shouldn't I? I looked through it myself that night. And what about you burgling brothers? Did you see what went on through the peephole as well? No, not likely, Gov. Didn't see nothing of the sort, Gov. I doubt these 2 buffoons were even aware of the peephole's existence. So the Skokin brothers were there, but they didn't see the killing of Mr. Windenbank take place. Inside the storeroom, I could see the broker and that young girl standing there. The defendant? Yes, though neither of them noticed that I was looking. The girl raised her gun and pointed it straight at the man. And then, what did you see next? The accused in black coat shot the man in the back as he was trying to flee to safety.
Hold it!
Yes, when the crime was discovered, the defendant was found with a gun in her hand. But that was Mr. Windenbank's gun from which only a single bullet had been fired. And as we've already established, Mr. Graydon, that bullet was fired at you. Ah, but no, it wasn't the broker's gun that the pickpocket girl had when I saw her. Yes, the bullet from Windenbank's gun grazed my arm, and yes, the Skokin's gun grounded the detective. But this was another gun entirely, a third gun. The broker's gun was not the murder weapon, so clearly there had to be a third firearm involved. In other words, the accused must have had her own gun with her at the time.
Objection!
But no other gun was found at the scene. Calm yourself, counsel. Sorry. You must consider the events in order. At first, I saw the broker and the girl glaring at each other, but then all of a sudden, the broker turned to run. And it was at that moment that the little gutter rat shot him in the back. A chilling image, I must say. I saw the blood splatter all over that wretched girl.
Hold it!
All over her? Yes. Through the peephole, I saw it clearly. You saw a lot of things through that peephole, huh? Of course, the stains are invisible now, what with the coat being such a dark color. But I assure you, that garment is sullied with the victim's blood. Well, it is sullied with blood, that's for sure. But it's not Mr. Windenbank's blood, is it? No, that's right. It's Mr. Mason Milverton's blood from when McGill stabbed him 2 months ago. It's so annoying. If they'd only accept Hurley's chemical analysis, we could prove that. but they won't, so unfortunately we can't use it as evidence to support our case. Bother. My lord. Requesting your lordship's permissions to interrupt the cross-examination. Explain yourself, officer. I have the result of the test that was ordered earlier, my lord. Ah, the blood on the accused's overcoat. Thank you, officer. Very well. The cross-examination is hereby temporarily suspended. I presume you have no objection, counsel? No, my lord. Well, there you have it. The report, please, Inspector? Yes, sir. Traces of human blood were found on the overcoat of the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. From the extent of the stains, it would appear that they were the result of spattering following a gunshot wound. End of report. Gunshot wound? Goodness me. See? What did I tell you?
Objection!
No, the blood on that coat is not Mr. Windibank's. What on earth makes you say that, counsel? The coat originally belonged to Magnus McGilded. Just before his coat was deposited at Windibank's, McGilded had fatally stabbed Mr. Mason Milverton. So the blood on that overcoat is the blood of the brickmaker from the omnibus case.
Objection!
Well, the dead cannot speak. Isn't that right, my Nipponese friend? Sorry? 2 months ago in this very courtroom, did you not argue fervently for McGilded's innocence? And yet, now that the man is dead, you brand him as a murderer? Your conduct shatters any shred of respect you may have earned for yourself in this country. But that was... I call it a bally disgrace. Treachery, that's what it is. How to determine whether the blood on that coat is 2 months old or not? Even a stereoscope couldn't help the answer to that problem pop out. It can't be done. But we used Mr. Sholmes specially. Mr. Sholmes is a detective, not a chemist. Would you put such faith in a chemical formula devised by me, for example, when I'm a communications officer? I held out Pedosky to Starving Boy, and he ran away crying. Herlock Sholmes is barely more than a figment of the public's imagination. His name carries no weight in this courtroom. No weight at all. How could you say that? Victory is sweet indeed. This proves that my testimony is the whole truth from start to finish. How do you arrive at such a conclusion, sir? As the witness said, the accused's coat was spattered with blood of the victim. The only way Mr. Graydon could possibly have known that fact is if he saw it happen. In other words, his testimony is solid and the conclusion is singular. It was the accused who shot the victim in this case. That is the whole truth. My lord. Been a long battle this one, but this old war horse has something to say now, if you please. Mr. Foreman? As of this moment, sir, the squadron has reached its final decision. Ready, men? All for one now. Sir.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
That's just unfair. Well, it would appear the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have reached a unanimous verdict. The defense has consistently failed to unpick this witness testimony. Here's to any attempt you may make at unpicking the juror's decision being equally successful. I don't believe it. After I've come so far, how is it all unraveling on me so fast? How very distressing to be held in such low esteem. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? Officer? You've delivered the report now. That will be all. Thank you. It occurs to me with some regularity, Mr. Naruhodo, that scientific truths are determined not by science, but by none other than the human mind. I know that voice. Am I going mad? Ah! Mr. Sholmes! I knew it. What is the meaning of this? Order! 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 What business do you have here, Detective? The last I heard, you were recuperating the hospital. As well as I should be, but I had not been set upon on an errand. Had I not been set upon an errand. Alright guys, this has been one heck of a conclusion. Or, you know, a surprise for that matter. Not necessarily a conclusion. But I'm going to have to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. Until the next one.